Uncle Henry Show, News Radio 710. Hello, good morning.
Hey, Henry, it's Mark.
Hey, Mark, how are you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Chuck called in about the bar hopping a little bit.
Yes.
About how bad these clubs are. There's no clubs tough like they used to be when, I guess when my dad was coming up. When I was a young man, my dad used to take me to a lot of these clubs. I'd hang out with him. Now, of course, I wasn't drinking. And
now, wait a second. Before you continue, how old were you?
At some points, I could be as young as 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, 11 years old at points. He liked hard Chesapeake and adult beverages.
Do you remember the names of any of these places he took you into?
Oh, yes, that's the reason I called, because a lot of people don't remember this club. It was on Moffett Road by the railroad track and right outside of Crichton. It was called the Chat and Chew and the Oasis Club. I've been to the White Way with my dad, and the West End Club, Leo Brown's, the Poorhouse, Helen's. Actually, I was in Helen's with my dad, and I was probably about 10 years old, and this big heavy-set lady got in a fight with this little bitty lady, and when things happened, my dad would send me to the bathroom so I wouldn't see it. But I got a glimpse of the fight, and I didn't know what a bouffant, one of them bouffant hair pieces was. And that little lady reached up there and grabbed that lady's hair, that bouffant piece, and pulled it off and snatched it off. And that's the first time I cussed in front of my daddy. And I didn't mean to cuss. I said, "Daddy, she snatched her blank hair off." He said, "Get in the bathroom, boy." But, seeing other things, there was a little hit house, as they called it, gambling house, right at Moffett at the railroad tracks. It was called Dots. And I remember going there with my dad. You could gamble, play cards, drink beer on Sundays. They couldn't sell alcohol on Sundays, and everything was shut down. And, my grandfather had a pretty tough club right on Bayshore Avenue called Brannon's, and when he ran it, he had to shoot a couple guys, kind of wing them a little bit because they got out of trouble. Got out of line and got in trouble.
Okay, so instead of a bouncer, he would just wing them. He would bring out the gun and wing them.
Had a .45, and he was a well-respected man, and he would never cuss, and he'd warn you 1,000 times like a rattlesnake. And he'd say, "Gosh darn it, gosh darn it." And I had an uncle on my wife's side that knew my grandfather real well, and him and his brother wanted to come in the club, and if they couldn't find nobody to fight, they'd fight each other. So my grandfather, under bad, had a brain freeze there, but he told them don't start any trouble. But when they got in there, they started trouble with each other, and he pulled a gun on Jackie. And he said, "Gosh darn it, Jackie. Gosh darn it, I told you." And he said, "Please, Mr. Seymour, don't shoot me. Please, Mr. Seymour, don't shoot me." So he didn't shoot that one, but he did wing a couple of times over the years.
Well, what an education! Now, you're okay now, right? You're able to operate in society, okay, even though you were exposed to this.
No problem, buddy.
This societal problem.
Yeah, there was more stories I can tell you. I could sit here and tell you for days different stories of different in the clubs with my dad. They used to give out red quarters in the clubs, and it was a quarter with red paint on it. And they would give it to certain people to go and encourage, put in the jukebox, encourage people to play the jukebox. And, of course, I was a good-looking little fella there, and they always called me Little Gary, and they always used to give me all the quarters. And a lot of times I'd go play the shuffleboard and stuff like that instead of putting the jukebox. But it'd be interesting. Anybody knows some of them, like the Chat and Chew or my grandfather's club, Brandon's, or something like that. Be interested to hear some stories. Maybe anybody been there over the years.
All right. Well, Mark, thank you for sharing your very. See, for most of us did not spend our elementary school years in bars and clubs, and so this is quite a walk on a different side of life for us.
Actually, my dad met my stepmama in Helen's on Old Shell Road, and they got married in the bar itself.
They got married in the bar?
Got married in the bar. That's a true story.
Where on Old Shell Road was that?
That was right there close to Florida Street. It was the 19th hole for a while, but it was called Helen's. And then, of course, one of the only few left is Tarpon. They call it the Big Fish on the Hill. That's on Moffett Road, and that's been there for many years.
Well, look, I appreciate your very unusual story of your upbringing.
Well, my dad was a good dad. I mean, he just took me, I didn't get to go to work with him because he didn't work wasn't high on his agenda, but I was treated real well with nothing, with no harsh meaning and nothing in it. But you have a good day, Henry.
All right, you too. Thank you very much for your phone call. Well, that sounds like a book. That would be, you know what? That would make a great Lagniappe article. Mark's childhood would make a great article in Lagniappe. Dad meets his future wife in a bar, and they get married in the bar.